Hey everyone, this is Matt with Learn Everything About Design, and in today's video, we're going to talk a little bit about CE or collaborative hubs in Fusion. I've gotten some questions recently in comments and in emails asking what happened to the save dialog. If this happened to you, if you save a file and the little dialog that says enter description, create a milestone is gone, that likely means that you've been moved over to a CE style or collaborative hub. This wouldn't have just happened. You would have gotten an email about it. It'll also be, if you're viewing your hub on the web, you'll also see that there'll be a note. In my case, for the main hub that I work in, it says that it's going to be converted on April 23rd. So, what does this change mean? What is it going to do to your workflow and all that kind of stuff? It doesn't really change that much from a day-to-day basis, but what it does mean is that you will see a slight difference in some of the metadata, the properties. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at the old style hub, and then I'll switch over to a new style hub and show you what that looks like. So first, when you save in an old style hub, you'll get this dialog that says version description. You can create a milestone if you wish. I'll go ahead and create a milestone for this one. I'm not filling anything in. It's all saved, and that dialog goes away. Now, that information is available when you look at the version history. And so you can see here, if we take a look at all the versions, there'll be a milestone, it has a little flag next to it, and it says version 48. You can go through all 48 versions. You can go back to when a design was started and so on. You can also right click on the components, in this case, the top of the browser, and go to history. Now inside of history, you'll see show only milestones. Now this dialog will look different once your hub is converted over. So when we get to a new hub, I'll show you what that looks like. But inside of here, you can see milestones and you can see saves. And I don't typically leave comments when I save because I end up with a lot of versions. But if you do enter it there, you'll be able to see it. Another thing to note with the older style hubs is you cannot manually enter any data here for the user saved or milestone information. That stuff is locked in when you save the design. There are some other changes that do happen with the newer CE style hubs. So for example, if you go and you take a look at bill of materials, if you have access to the bill of materials, that information is going to look different. The properties are going to look different, and I'll show you the properties here as well. So if you go into properties, you'll notice that we've got part number, name, description, all that stuff at the top. Manage is a section if you're using the manage extension. So things like life cycle revision, whether it's been released or it's in a working state. And then the physical information at the bottom, things like mass, volume, bounding box, and so on. When we get into a CE style hub, that is going to look a bit different. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over now. You can't currently convert files from a CE style hub or you can't copy versions from one hub to another. Currently, you have to export them and then re-upload them in a new hub. So make sure that you do close your designs out. They will get closed automatically for you. All right, so the design I have open in this new hub, this is actually a video series I did for Autodesk, Learn Fusion CAD in 90 minutes. So it's on their Learn portal if you want to go through it. We go through the process of designing a bike pedal using intent-driven design. That's not the point of this video. The point of this video is to show you how the data looks different. And so if we right-click and we take a look at properties, you'll notice first that there are a lot of additional component properties that did not exist. You'll notice the part number is automatically created based on the date, time information, and an auto-generated number that gets created. You can override this if you want. There's also some information about the description. Oops, I clicked off, it has to reset. The description and material name, you'll notice that it looks different. The very start of this looks different than the old style hub. Information about manage is all here. You can see that I am able to enter it even though I'm not using the manage extension. And then there's a bunch of properties for the component. Category, cost, manufacturer part number, package type, stock number, and then there's information about the project. There's a summary, and then there's the physical information at the bottom, the same stuff we saw in the old style hub. One thing you'll note is that all of this data here you can enter. And what's actually very different about this is the data in the bill of materials, in these properties, is somewhat independent of the design, meaning if you go in and you change the description. So let's go ahead and say MTB pedal version 2, and I hit enter and close that. It's not prompting me to save the design. And that's because this data lives somewhat independently of the design file, which means that changing the part number or the description or the cost or the manufacturer part number, that's not going to trigger a save anymore. And so that's an important difference. The information in the bill of materials, and let's go ahead and take a look at the BOM. So the information in the bill of materials is going to be slightly different as well. There are going to be categories here that you can directly enter. Not everybody, I don't believe everybody has access to bill of materials. If you're on a hobby license, you may not see this. But if you are in an assembly, not a part file, but an assembly or hybrid design, you should be able to see a bill of materials. So now, one of the other differences, as I mentioned, is saving. And so if I change something in here, if I hide a component and show it, that's going to trigger a save. When I click save, there is no save as dialog. There's no enter a milestone, enter a version description. Instead, that is going to be listed in the history section. And so we no longer have a milestone. What was a milestone in the current version is actually going to be called a version, which is a little tricky. And in order to invoke that, what you have to do is come in and create a version. And so that version, the terminology, for whatever reason, is very complicated, but this is a new milestone. And so when you create a milestone, that is going to be categorized different as just saving the design. Why they changed from version and milestone to just saving and version, I don't really know. I don't have an answer for that. But one big difference here is that you can actually go in and you can change these descriptions here. So finalized color, for example. That information can be changed on the fly. You can filter it. You can just take a look at model saves. You can just take a look at versions that were created. And you'll be able to filter through all those different aspects of your design. You can also clear the filters pretty easily. And so if this has already happened to you, if your design has transitioned or your hubs have transitioned to the new CE style hub, the functionality is all still there. It's all still the same. We actually have more functionality available to us, but you will not see that save dialog pop up anymore. So if you do want to add a version, which is the new milestone, or if you want to save a description on the save, you will have to go in to the history. Note that you will have some different icons here as well. So this has the current one that I'm looking at has a version. And keep in mind, this is another important note, versions, again, the old milestone, versions are going to be the default in some instances of things like detailed drawings. And so keep that in mind that when you are making these milestones, in quotes, but versions, then they do have implications. They will be the default when you have an assembly for updates. A lot of times it'll default to the most current version or milestone. And there are just implications like that. If you use that functionality, just be aware of it. If you don't, then don't really worry about it. But that's a big change that is coming. It has been coming. Anybody that has created a Fusion account since March or April of last year would have automatically been on this new style hub. Anybody that has had a Fusion account for years, like myself, they're slowly migrating them over. Mine has a lot of projects. I have access to a lot of different hubs. So I assume that mine's probably lower on the list just based on the number of stuff that needs to be translated over. So probably most of you have already gotten used to the new CE style hub, but if you didn't, hopefully this video was helpful. If you have any questions, please let me know. If you are looking for some newer content on intent-driven design, we did update all of our content on learneverythingabouutdesign.com. So our part design, assembly design, all that stuff has new content has been updated for the new workflows. So if you're struggling with that and you need a place to kind of learn those new workflows, make sure that you check out the description. I'll leave a link there. But any comments or questions, leave them on the video. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.